of in a world of change, technology, AI, communication has seemed to become a lost art. People are forgetting the human connection, the human piece when it comes to building true culture and true success within organizations. On today's show on SPD 911, we're going to be talking about communication that works. I'll see you on the show. SPD 911 isn't just a show, it's your emergency response team for sterile processing. Having a diverse organization, people make the mistake in trying to make everyone the same. SPD 911, we stand together. You're asking for a pay raise every year. Heard the stories, seen the tears, raw and real, we face the fight, supporting each other, night and daylight. What is going on, SPD 911 Crusaders? This is Dr. J. Taylor Jacobs, the host of the show, SPD 911. And every single week, we are joined by the illustrious Sharon Greene-Golden, our Director of Compliance. She is not only a matriarch of sterile processing, she's an advocate for doing the right thing the right way, 100% every single day. The second person that we're joined on the show every single week is our Director of Operations, our clinical wizard, getting into the trenches and figuring out workflows and processes that work. That is Derek Jones. And listen, they left me last week, and I'm extremely excited that they're back because this show is the Sharon Greene-Golden show, and DJ are just here for the ride. So the next time that Sharon Golden tries to leave, I'm going to be with her on the beach doing the show. What is going on, team? SGG, welcome back. DJ, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be back. Mm-hmm.
So let's go off all the time talking about what are we most excited for the week. So go ahead, SGG, you start. What's one thing you're most excited for?
So I am most excited really to be back with SPD 911. I truly look forward to this hour of sharing information with everybody through the airwaves, through our social media. And it has become a part of my weekly process. And so I tried everything I could to get on last week with you, Dr. Jacob. Technology just was not working with me. But understand, everyone, this I like. And if you have questions, thoughts, or anything like that, we would like for you all to please put them in the chat, send them over so that we can get answers for you. We can do the research if it's needed. We want to be, as Dr. Jake says, a resource for you in the times like this.
We're going to kick it over to you, Derek. Dr. Jake seems to have some camera trouble right now, so you go ahead and let us know about your week as well.
That's all right. So you're right, SGG, stepping away and getting out in the field and really working with the people and doing the work. Sometimes you begin to think about the topics and the discussions you have on SPD 911 and as people approach you and talk about the show, and you forget and realize that, hey, you know, we're still living these real life experiences, and people have comments and thoughts on what you said on the show and what they would have done in certain situations. But also I like being back on the show and have that real life experience and to know that people are still having these challenges. So I see the value. Often we're just us three talking and sharing thoughts and previous experiences and our, you know, what we've seen in the industry, but to hear that these some of these challenges still exist, it helps me to realize that there is a need for this platform. And when I was in Oakland, I was able to share, you know, that our platform does provide CEU. So please put that out there, Dr. Jake, at the end and help us understand, help people understand how to get them. So I got a few people listening, jumping on from Oakland that and want to check out the show. So Glad to be back.
Awesome. And I'm gonna say this. You know, I'm used to doing with Bread to Lead a show by myself, but with you all here, I get excited every week. One, because SGG, you know you're my favorite. Girl, you got my heart, SGG. Unbreak my heart. Say you love me
Oh Lord.
again. Yeah.
Right.
And DJ. All right, so I'm most excited this week about and honestly, it was around the same sentiment, DJ, that you had. We received a good amount of people, a good number of feedback from persons that are in the field. When I was at ORMBC speaking in SGG, you were at HCP speaking. There were several leaders from the OR periop that talked about the show or that recognized information from the show, and those that are looking at information that we're delivering and they're sharing it. And that's the best thing I think that makes me excited, that we're not wasting this hour slot of time and people are truly valuing what we have to say, and all of the isms that you and Sharon Greene-Golden brings. I'm excited. And if you're watching this show right now, this is SPD 911. We are your trauma response for everything that's happening in your hospital, to give you the skills and the tools that you need to be able to grow and expound on your leadership journey to become whoever you dream to become in this space. Healthcare is so vast, and there's so many opportunities and things that you can do to get ahead, to grow your profession, and also grow your cash flow for your household. And you are able to get CEUs by watching our show. All you have to do is go to SPD911.com and join our SPD community. And you will see, once you engage in there, the more we get engagement, the more that maybe I can beg Sharon Greene-Golden to go in there and talk to some of y'all. That's definitely a great thing. Oh, and also DJ and SGG, a manager at a very sizable health system said that we need to do like a master class for people where they get more time with us, given the game that we can give. So I said, we'll figure something out. We can do an SPD 911, like, summit, like a day summit online virtually, where we can really touch base with people. So I'm excited about ideating with y'all about that. That's going to be very cool. And lastly, the last thing, okay, Ignacio's in the comments. We will be in Oklahoma this week. So if you are in Oklahoma, I'll be a guest speaker this week, November 15th at 1 p.m. I'll be talking about unlocking operational intelligence in sterile processing. Truly, as a company, we are advocates of taking data and using data to solve the problem of mistakes happening, not taking data, analyzing it, and putting it in a report to sound smart. We want to use the data to mitigate the risk, the problems that we continually see inside of sterile processing departments all over the country, so that we can continue to innovate in this space. So I'll be talking about it there. And yes, our podcast, Bread to Lead, did just hit the number 8 in all business podcasts in the country. And I need y'all to help us get SPD 911 up there on the healthcare side. So the more you share, the more you communicate, the more we can advocate, and the more we can bring on other guests. And I do have anticipation on bringing on some doctors. We do have some doctors that are going to come on. We do have some executives that's going to come on SPD 911, because we want the range and the reach. We can't just talk SPD. We have to talk hospital through the lens of us being sterile processing advocates. So let's start the show. Today is a day because we're talking about communication that works. We're talking about learning how to navigate inside of a world where it seems that human connection is beginning to be so far and so few, as the skill of communicating is becoming to be not only a lost art, but almost like a delicacy. If you know how to communicate, you'll find yourself in opportunities that you cannot believe. So as you all know, we start with a scenario and a situation, and this situation specifically is going to be for Sharon Greene-Golden. So the situation is an SPD and OR nurses. SPD and OR nurses are constantly clashing. SPD feels ignored when reporting missing instruments, and OR nurses complain SPD doesn't respond fast enough. Both sides are frustrated, impatient, and patient safety is caught in the middle. SGG, the question is, how do I build better communication with OR nurses?
Okay. First of all, when we totally understand that communication is the transferring of information. So if we're not transferring information, we're not communicating. The OR and the SPD, as I always say, first of all, we have to understand we are a team. Team means you're constantly communicating. Any sports team you see, they are constantly communicating. Nobody's off in the corner and doing their own thing. You have to communicate. So one of the things for the OR is that when they need items, we have to have processes in place that allow them to give that transferring of information to the right person, to the right department. The other thing is that some things that they really need in the OR can be fixed by us fixing certain things, our preference cards. If we fixed our preference cards, OR Nation, we would not have to run and look for so many things. If they were kept up to date, if we knew that Dr. Joe needs a rake, needs facelift retractors every case, then we would have it on every case. And you would not have to call and say, I need the facelift retractors. We have to be willing to share ownership of miscommunications. You called down, you said you needed something, you weren't specific, you didn't talk to the right person, you didn't give them your name, you didn't give them the room you were in, you just called and said, I need facelift retractors. Well, you're not going to get them because number one, I need to know who you are, where you are in order to make that happen. But when we both understand with this transferring of information that the person in the middle of this miscommunication is called the patient. And it's our job to mitigate that issue by making sure we talk to each other, not at each other. The transferring of information is just that. You give me what you need. I give you the answer that's going to come to fix that. For many years, Dr. Jake and Derek, SPDs have talked at each other. We don't like having the crucial conversations. They don't really like talking to us, and we don't like having to talk to them. But as a team, how can you communicate if you don't talk to each other? You can't text me. You could, but it's not the best way to do it, to text me this information. Another way we can fix this, Dr. Jake, is by everyone getting to know each other. I found in my hospital OR is that when we knew each other, when I know you're Dr. Jake and you know I'm SGG, we communicate a little differently than when it's somebody. That's when I'm talking to somebody. No, when you say, hey, SGG, I'm in room 8, I need facelift retractors. Now I can give you some information. I'm going to transfer some information back to you. Okay, Dr. Jake, you're in room 8, you need facelift retractors. Am I hearing you correctly? Yes, they're on the way. Now we shouldn't have any problem with you getting what you need. You told me what you needed. I re-emphasized what you said you needed. We both were cordial, and now I can meet the need. I'm going to let Derek jump in here.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see you ended where I would start it. I think the most important thing for SPD and OR nurses to do is to develop a working relationship. Quite often, our managers and supervisors, they're thrown into roles, and they take their what's needed and what the job is, and they just jump right in without establishing effective communication and relationships with our customer, which is our OR customer. And the reason that's important is because, you know, all nurses are also, they have other tasks assigned to them. Some may be service line nurses over a particular area of trades, or orthopedic nurse. It may be an ophthalmology nurse. Sometimes their level of focus and attention, we may interfere with that when they're focused on serving that patient in the OR, when we're bringing a problem or wanting to make a suggestion on how to resolve things. So understanding boundaries, building those relationships, and really getting to know that person so that you could communicate and have an opportunity to have their listening ear whenever you want to meet with a challenge, or whenever they approach you with an issue. You all have boundaries and a relationship established to in order to pass effective communication back and forth with one another. And then at that point, once that relationship is established, then you can work on attending meetings, right? I think it's extremely important that SPD is involved in OR huddles and meetings so that we can hear some of the concerns, and vice versa. I think it's extremely important that someone from the OR should come and represent themselves in maybe weekly SPD or sterile processing huddles, in order to get that understanding and be able to report back and communicate the concerns from both sides. Once that is established, now we have a level of comfort with one another. We're able to communicate. We're able to understand issues and concerns. And at that point, that relationship is established to where the trust is then created that we will help and handle any concerns that is brought to us.
And I would like to add a small piece to that, specifically with the miscommunication piece, because it's so nuanced, right? And it's heavy with complexity. What I mean by that is it's diversity, it's culture, it's religion, it's it's faith, it's belief, it's ego, it's all these things that come into this emotional static that takes away from you being able to connect to each other. And I would like to say it's almost like a walkie-talkie. If you're on the same channel and that walkie-talkie can communicate with each other, it doesn't matter who you are, what your belief is, what your color is, you should be able to receive the information coming back and forward. The only time that communication can't come back is if we allow emotional static to be in between. And so what I don't want us to walk away from this portion, especially talking about miscommunication, is to start the show off without truly breaking down what miscommunication is. And miscommunication is when what's meant and what's understood doesn't match.
Mm-hmm.
What I meant to deliver versus what's understood in your delivery. When that doesn't match, that's communication. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and I wanted to say this because sometimes in your career or in your profession, especially when you love what you do, you can't always control the delivery, meaning like it depends on what's going on. If it's an urgent matter, I can't call you, with a lower temperament. Hey, can you please? Because it may not convey the urgency. So we also have to consider when I am receiving information, what is going on in that person who's delivering the information, their background, so that I can take that into consideration with how I'm actually receiving it. So it's not just saying the wrong thing, it's the misalignment between what you meant to convey and what the other person actually received. And it can happen verbally, non-verbally, emotionally, or even operationally. These are the things that we have to remember. So if I am the sender, this is when the message leaves your mouth wrong. You might know what you mean, but your tone, your word choice, or your delivery, it distorts how it's received. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're taking that into context. And then the other thing is the medium of which we're delivering information. If you want to communicate with someone, you do not play the telephone game. You do not send your words through another human being, because that human being will translate it how they received it and deliver it to someone else in a way that was never your intended way of delivering that form of communication. And then we also have to consider the medium of which we send the message through, not just a human, but if it's email, if it's text, if it's phone, if it's whatever these things are that could distort hearing the context or you being genuine or your approach to it. Those are also ways that we can actually use to make sure we're paying attention to. If I know it's through the phone and you can't see my face, I have to be aware as the sender, if I'm direct, to also say, hey, I'm sorry, I know I'm direct, but we have to get this done. Just entering that in when I cannot see your face or verbally or spiritually feel your energy, that insert alone will allow for me to decode your directness a lot easier. So we have to just be aware of the medium of which we're using, and then make sure that we're giving context as we're delivering the information, so that we can assume that the person or assure that the person who's receiving that communication doesn't get offended or feel a way about it. Okay. These are just things that we have to understand. Go ahead, SGG.
I think also we have to understand that with the communication, it's not personal.
That's right.
Feelings. You got to take the feelings out as much as possible. What we're communicating is crucial to somebody's surgical case. This is not the time for you to get up in your feelings and, and not deliver what needs to be delivered. The reason I say restate what someone asks you for is so that you're clear. I worked with a diverse group of people where they had different accents, and some accents are really heavy, and you can't understand what the person said. What did you say? What, you've said that 5 times. What did you say? And sometimes, Dr. Jake, we'd have to literally say, hold on a minute. Let me put someone else on the phone that may be able to, decipher what it is you're really asking for. Because you're never going to get it with Sharon. She can't understand a word you're saying today. And we'd have to work on that. We even had classes at this hospital where they sent people to learn to enunciate and be able to pronounce words better, because we were stuck on that. I don't understand what you asked for. The other thing was being willing to go to the OR. And I'm talking to leaders, supervisors, team leaders, managers. Go to the OR, go to the room, go face to face. What is it you need? I found that when I spent time in a room with a physician who is yelling and screaming because he needs something, and he hears the nurse on the phone, and he can realize from the end he's hearing that we're not getting it wherever it is we are, that I would tell them, hold on, I'm coming. I'm coming with what I think you want, but I'm coming. And I'm going to be in the room so that you can tell me face to face what it is you need. And letting the physicians know we're here to get you what you need. But the communication has to be correct. If what you really need is an Alice clamp and all the nurse is saying is clamp, I can't get you an Alice clamp. There's lots of clamps. And so what you don't hear, sir, is I'm on the other end of the phone saying, is it an Alice? Do you want a coca? What is it you need? And she's saying clamp. I just need a clamp. So I will never bring you what you need because she wasn't clear. So it's all about being clear. What is it you need? I think I've told you all communication, as you say, Dr. Jake, it is all about how it is received, how it is given. Because I was on the phone with a nurse, and she told me, Dr. So-and-so wants you in the room right now. And I remember I said, what do you need? Is it something I can bring so that you can have it? What is it you need? And all she would say is, I don't know. And so I'm on the phone. I'm like, you're in the room. What do you mean you don't know? You calling me from the room. What is it he needs? I don't know. He just said, you need to come up here. And so in the frustration on the phone, not knowing that she had me on speakerphone, I say to her, I need to know what you need. So I know whether to bring a knife or a gun. The doctor says, hold up, Miss Greene-Golden, hold up. I just want you to come to the room and look at some scissors. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And when I got to the room, he said to me, he said, I am so sorry. He said, I should have spoken up sooner because I knew you were on speaker. You didn't. And I should have said, what we need is just for you to come check something out. And he admitted that. And what I said to the nurse was, you were wrong because your first thing should have been, hi, Miss Golden, by the way, you're on speakerphone. Now, the communication would have been different. And I still would have said, what do you need? But I would have been able to say, Dr. Jones, what is it that you really need? What do you want? What can I bring? And then Dr. Jones could say, I just want you to come to the room and look at these scissors. I think that they're cut wrong. Look at these osteotomes. I don't think they're being sharpened correctly. Now we are communicating and I can fix the problem. And so it is about the receiver and the transmitter. And between the two of them, we have to work on that. And sadly, in this day and age with social media, the way it is, and everybody with cell phones, we don't talk.
Yeah.
We no longer talk to each other because everybody's trying to type something into their telephone. And people who have said to me in communicating, Derek, I sent you a text. Well, I don't carry my phone with me, so I won't see that text till tonight. You know, I'm at work. You need to call me. This is not the hospital's phone. You need to call me on the line that they put out there because I'm not looking at my cell phone 24/7. And now I can help you. At the end of the day, I'm trying to help you get what you need. And that requires that we talk about it. That requires that we have professional trust that if you tell me what you truly need, I'm either going to do two things. I'm going to show up with it, or I'm going to say, I don't know what you need. I'm coming. I don't understand what you're asking for. Because Dr. Jake, in SPD, we have thousands of instruments. And sometimes they call them by a nickname that I never heard.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I can't meet the need. But at the end of that conversation, I'm cognizant that there's a patient that needs whatever it is. So I will sometimes give the phone to Derek, and I'm on my way up the OR. But they talking to Derek, still trying to explain something, and I'm busting in the door. Hello, what is it that you really, really need? So that we can meet that need. But communication skills have gotten really, really bad because we do not talk to each other. We spend a lot of time, Dr. Jake, talking at, calling you people, them people, somebody. And that irritates me at the very core of who I am, because who is you people? I can't even get you the facelift retractors because I'm stuck on you people.
And not only do people rarely talk to each other anymore, I'm finding it difficult to even get eye contact these days from people. I can't even get people to look me in the eyes. So they're always looking down, talking. They're so used to looking at their phones to text. It's getting difficult. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
So with that, what I want to leave everyone with before we switch over is always assume that whoever you're delivering the information to don't understand. Mm-hmm. Always assume that you'll have to give That's 3 good. Or 4 different examples just to make sure that they have context. And that'll just keep you from getting into those weird feelings and spaces that people aren't listening. Because the truth is, we live in a world where nobody wants to be wrong. Everyone wants to be right. And everybody wants their point to be the right point. So even if they were wrong, the odds of them coming back around to tell you that you were right and to dial it down will be slim to none. We can look at how we communicate within our own personal relationships. So what I always like to assume is that whatever I'm telling you, you didn't understand it. So I'm going to give you different examples. I'm going to talk a little bit longer just to make sure you grappled it. And then I'm going to make sure that you are able to repeat it back, what you thought my intentions were, or what I said, as SGG said, to make sure that we have it. So a lot of people may say, Dr. J, you give too many analogies. But in one of my favorite books, it's called the Bible. Okay? One of my favorite books, The Disciples asked Jesus, why do you give so many parables? And he was telling them because they do not know. So he has to use a myriad of different examples just to make sure that that one message is reaching the audience that it was. So if he had to do it, how much is it going to ask for me to understand that I will have to do it as well? Yeah. So yeah.
And one other thing, Dr. Jake, we have become a society where when people are talking, we're not listening to understand, we're listening to respond.
You better talk about it.
You know, I'm getting my answer ready. I didn't even hear you ask for the apple because I had an answer ready for a pear. And so when you said apple,
and I'm gonna give you this answer to this pear.
You know, so we do not listen to hear. We listen to respond because this is the society we're in. I gotta have an answer. I gotta have an answer. And the other thing I've learned for you all out there, because I am loud by nature, was that I had to learn that if I talk lower, people have to ask me, what did you say? Mm-hmm. Now they open their ears up because I'm getting lower and lower. What did you say you needed? Well, I said they got lower. I need a facelift retractor. Okay, I'm going to bring you a facelift retractor. Now, you know, communication has taken a whole nother turn because they expect that I'm going to come out and say, what did you say? No. What is it you need? And they would ask me if I was feeling well. When I talk low, they always wanted to know if I was well because I'm always so loud and out there. And I'm like, I'm fine. But for you, I have to talk low so that you will listen to me as I ask you to restate your need. I'm just asking you to restate your need.
Oh, this is so good. SGG, I keep trying to move on to the next segment, but you keep saying something that makes me want to say something else. Because it's ideating. I think it's great for the audience to understand. First of all, we're going to have to create some type of masterclass just on how to communicate. The best ways to navigate, communicate, and all of that. So, Iggy, go ahead and write that in the notes, in the producer notes. But I think this is important because your voice, right? You have the power to create whatever you want in this world. And my favorite book, it says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." And what he was talking about was the power of the tongue. That's the biggest weapon. You can create the world of your dreams, or you can create the hell of your nightmares. It starts right here with your mouth. Whatever comes out your mouth, your heart, of the abundance of your heart, that's who you are. So one of the things that we have to understand is the number one weapon that you should learn how to master is the weapon of your tongue and your words. Come on, somebody. I'm about to talk to you.
That's all right.
I'm about to talk.
Yes.
Because how you use your weapon will determine how you can navigate in this world. If your weapon is always loud and shotgun-like, you're always going to make people abrasive. They're always going to be scared, hands up, and defensive. If I'm always quiet and quaint and not assertive, everyone will always kind of walk over me. So you have to learn how to use tone, how to use pauses, how to use your space. If someone's coming extremely aggressive, slowing them down because they may have been sped up. You can use your words or your tone or your pacing to bring back control to an environment that is out of control. And a lot of times it's space, letting space breathe in between. So we don't have time to talk about it today, but I did want everyone to know and say, listen, if whoever told you that who you are is who you are and how you talk is how you talk, and that's just what it is, that's a person who is setting you up for failure. Get rid of that. And a lot of us have to unlearn and relearn and understand your tonality does matter. How you communicate that does matter. Learning when and when not to use big words or fourth grade level words, those matter. If I use my doctorate level words in a world or an industry that on average has 10th grade level, I'm just saying any industry has a 10th grade level, then they're going to think that I'm trying to talk over them on purpose.
That's
If
right.
I take my natural dialect from my everyday, how I communicate every day with my family, and if I take that to the world of academia, they're going to look down on me and say, hey, how did he get a degree? So these are the things that we have to navigate and understand, that if I need to learn communication, I first need to understand how to master the weapon of my words and my tongue and control my emotions and control the words that come out, because how it comes out can come out like a flower or it can come out like a bullet. And however it comes out, please believe, it'll say if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. So if your tongue is used as a sword, it's going to be used as a sword against you. So you have to learn how to navigate that so that you can be able to get what you want ultimately in this life. And I understand that everyone is so gung-ho and loving what you do. And I love the people that love what you do. But at the end of the day, you're trying to take care of your family, put your kids through school, get the car of your dreams, get the house that you want, get enough money so that you can invest for your future, retirement. These are all vehicles and conduits to get us what we truly want outside of the walls of the hospital. So the best way for you to actually increase your earning capabilities is to learn how to properly use your words. That is a nugget that I did want to say, and it's SGG's fault that I kept.
Listen, you have to learn to engage your brain before you open your mouth.
That's good. That's good.
Run it through your brain first before you let it come out of your mouth.
Run it.
Because your mouth will run off on its own. Your mouth just starts saying some stuff you didn't even mean to come out. So I learned to take a deep breath. And some days it's count to 10 and some days it's count to 100 before I respond.
4,000.
I do not want my mouth to put out the answer my brain didn't really want out there.
And I actually want DJ, I want you to actually break this down a little bit, because I've seen you navigate some really tumultuous waters, and you learning how to, like, you know, you're like an avatar controlling the wind. I do want for people to hear, like, how do you navigate? Like, what are things that are going on in your mind when you're dealing with irate customers? You're dealing with irate so-called, partners in this space, and they're just being crude and mean. Like, what do you do to kind of navigate that? I think you do that a little bit better than SGG and myself.
I would say all that, y'all.
We gotta count. You don't have to count. Me and SGG gotta go.
Hey, I'm counting.
Okay.
I'm counting. I really am, because look, we sharing on SPD Live. So growing up, I've always had the sharp man complex. So I've always had to prove. So I've just learned to handle it a little bit. So and I've always felt challenged. You know what I mean? I've always been the smaller guy that had to prove something. But as I gotten older, I began to, develop skills and just listening, observing, and just controlling my anger. And you know what I mean? Because sometimes we want to respond. That's our own personal response to the triggers that this person is bringing upon us. But what I always do, number one, and you said it, and it goes back to what you said, what you both said about controlling your tongue. I don't want to react because someone else is frustrated and react in a way that it'll jeopardize me professionally, my job, my career, who I am as a person, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to get my paycheck. What I try to look at is, okay, I see this person or this individual is frustrated. They didn't get the tray in time. The surgeon didn't get the tray. I always try to look for the solution. What can I do to support you now? And then after I can support you in this moment to get you calm and cool down and deliver, what it is you're concerned about. Me personally, the way I'm wired is we got to have that talk later. So I need to meet with you later to address your approach, how I was approached, how it made me feel, and what I will tolerate or what I won't tolerate going forward. You know what I mean? Now we can do it in private. We can have that discussion with a mediator or however. But my way of getting us back on a level playing field and being able to have respect for one another and maybe help you understand the best approach to get me to support you, I have to have that discussion to talk about the way I was infected by your mode of communication when your anger or however you approach me. I have to later on have that dialogue in order for it to be a resolution for me. That's how it helps me personally. But at the end of the day, when we're working together, whether it's for patient care, whether it's trying to deliver a package or whatever industry we're in, my ultimate goal is to figure out how to remain calm so that I can help you have the successful outcome that affects that person, that patient, or whatever it is we're trying to achieve.
And this is something, I think you said something that was extremely powerful, DJ. When you said addressing it, you mentioned like addressing it. And I want for our crusaders to understand that conflict in many cases, most cases, brings continuity. Continuity is to continue our relationship on, we'll continue the job, we'll continue the process. There are many times in your career where you're going to have to directly address the misalignment. You're going to have to directly address the misalignment because most people run from conflict because they think it disturbs like peace or the flow. But the only thing it's going to cause is you're going to have quiet resentment. And that tension is going to be felt regardless. And it actually makes the workspace a lot harder to navigate because what people don't realize is that conflict isn't the opposite of continuity. It's the refining process that creates it. Because continuity means things keep moving forward. The relationships keep standing. The system keeps running. And the only way to build something that can keep going is to make sure that it can withstand tension. And that conflict, the purpose of it is to expose misalignment, not destroy it, but to define it. It shows you what's real. And so when I'm thinking about like what this communication piece, a lot of times the best way to fix misalignment in communication is through conflict of addressing the issue and getting right to it, because assumicide has already crept in. Y'all know we talked about a couple of episodes ahead of time. Assumicide is killing all great things off the assumption that someone understood, heard, felt, or read you right or read you wrong. So sometimes when there's too much tension involved in trying to create this new world, you cannot come and all of a sudden be happy-go-lucky and forget all the stuff that's happened in the past. Absolutely. You're going to have to address it. And when you directly address it, and like SGG said, don't bring your emotions to it. You bring logic. You bring a plan to fix the issue together. You bring an understanding that I want to resolve this today, right now. So it sets the tone of how that relates or that conversation is going to go, and you address it. Because if you don't teach people how to communicate or teach people how far they can go, they'll keep stepping on the line. And a lot of times they're stepping over the line because you haven't addressed that there is a line there. They didn't see it. And so that's something I also wanted to bring up. You brought that up, DJ, about sometimes just you gotta just deal with it. And that's exactly what that is. That conflict is the only thing that brings continuity. Because if you think about anything great, your best friends, your marriage, your spouse, your best friend, your sister, and even your children that become real close to the parent, it was through conflict, misalignment that brought the alignment. And so that's one thing I do want to make sure that you all took from that.
You know, I want to share this. I found that with the OR and the SPD, sometimes with communication, there's one thing going on in the surgical suite, and it's not always. That's why I investigate before we escalate. It's
That's
not
right.
always true. So, for instance, a doctor drops an instrument on the floor, they send it down to SPD. We have to process it according to IFUs. There's a process. The doctor is saying how long. In the OR, the communication is, we don't know what SPD is doing. They're holding us up. That's not necessarily true.
That's right.
SPD is processing the instrument according to the IFU.
That's right.
But that's not the communication that the doctor is hearing at the moment. That's not what he wants to hear. He wants the instrument. What I found is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. I was already going to surgical committee meetings, but I had a t-shirt made that said, we can't clean fast, don't ask. And I would go to the meeting with my t-shirt on and sit at the desk. And when it was at the table and when it was my turn, I would say, doctors who were there, we can't clean fast, don't ask. Don't set my team up. We have rules that we have to follow to clean the instruments. Now, when the OR tells you they don't know what we're doing, they're not telling you the truth, sir. We are following the process to return that instrument to you clean and sterile. And it takes time.
That's right.
It's not fast. So if you want to help me, stop dropping the instrument on the floor. Because if you drop it, I have to follow the rules to get it back to you, and it won't be fast. So the doctors knew when they heard from their team, the SPD, they could say, no, they down there doing the best they can. Maybe we can move on. And majority of the time, they would move on. By the time we got there with it and we say, here we are, they'd be like, we moved on. We found something else that we could do it with, or I used something else. They understood that we couldn't, because you cannot put our team, the SPD team, in the position to take a shortcut. This is what I'm telling my physicians. Don't put us in that position. The more you call and force us and yell at us, you allow a human being to take a shortcut. And that shortcut could be detrimental to a patient.
I like that. So speaking of shortcut and moving on, Derek, there's a situation where an SPD lead notices repeated OR mistakes, clamped instruments, incomplete returns, or trays sent back improperly. Escalating feels necessary, but every report that they send, it risks creating more tension between SPD and OR, almost like the feeling of tattletailing. This person wants to know, how do I escalate OR errors without ruining relationships?
Well, the biggest thing is you have to investigate, of course, and then you have to detail the impact and the effects it has on ensuring that SPD can deliver and provide safe, clean, and sterile products for the patient. So we have to help the OR understand the impact of what they're doing or what they're not doing, and how it impacts SPD for getting these instruments and trays reprocessed timely. Like Ms. Greene-Golden mentioned earlier, we can't reprocess fast. So it is very important that the nurses and staff and team in the ORs truly understand the importance of doing an instrument count, replacing the instruments back into the proper containers, doing the pre-cleaning and pre-treatment of instruments before it makes it to SPD. And when that is not happening, our teams, our SPD leadership, and our technicians have to be able to do a report, communicate these challenges back to the SPD leadership with details, with investigation. Hey, yesterday, 13 orthopedic trays came down without being properly sprayed with pre-cleanse. It took me, an additional hour or two to clean each set underwater because the blood was dried on. The impact, I had the sonic, the reamers for an additional cycle. I mean, we have to help them understand how it helps or how it impacts us from doing our work consistently and getting these trays back timely. And that goes back to the first question also. That impact and that trust is built with establishing relationships with our OR support and our OR team members. They should come down to our departments or up or wherever they are and really observe the trays and the sets coming out of the OR and see how they're received, the condition they're in, and the process and time it takes for us to get these sets ready for each case. That would then help them understand the importance of doing the necessary steps inside of the OR in order to get and have more favorable outcomes for them.
SGG, you have any takes on that?
Well, I'm
Come
going to
on
come
with
from the compliance side. Here we go. Policy. Policy, you have to go to not necessarily to the team. This is about communicating with the leaders. You go to the OR leaders and you say, with the investigation, Derek, I tell everybody, y'all got cell phones in your pocket, take pictures. Come with some pictures. A picture tells a picture, you don't have to talk much. Here is the picture of how the tray came down. It came down with the hip bone still attached to the awl. Now, the OR said they couldn't get the bone off the awl. Well, if they couldn't get the bone off, what makes them think I can get the bone off? I didn't put the bone on. So here's a picture, and we've told them before, please remove all body pieces. We don't do that. But the policy states that point of care treatment will be done. And in order to do correct point of care treatment, you must open the lock boxes of the instruments in order to spray them. These trays are not following the policy. This is not pointing fingers at nobody. Here's the policy. We're not being compliant to the policy. Here's a picture of what happened today. We're not talking about what happened last year. The picture is stamped 2 p.m. today. This is how I got it. What can we do to fix this? We need to have an in-service where we come and show you how the instruments need to be restrung and sprayed. If you want to send 2 people down to decon every week to spend an hour or 2 in decon to see the ramifications for not doing it correctly, we can work that in, but we must come up with a process to fix it. Because if I can't clean the instruments, as Derek said, I can't turn them over for your next case. And you're dealing with the human factor. And the human factor gets frustrated. And the more frustrated they get, the slower they work in SPD, Dr. Jake, in decon. The more I have to talk about scrubbing under the water and you didn't do your job, I'm not really scrubbing because I'm busy talking to myself in my head and I'm mad. And so just like doctors get frustrated at the field and they start yelling and sometimes using profanity and carrying on, the same thing in reverse happens in decontam. When I get a tray that now was going to take me an hour, now I've got to put 2 hours into this one tray. And you're constantly asking me, how long? How long? So it's all about bringing back the policies that cover everybody. The policy is generic. It says this is what we do and why. The investigation shows this is not what you're doing, and the picture proves it.
Yeah, I think the solution to all of this is just if every hospital has Sterile by Design.
Yes.
Our technology, Sterile by Design, is an operational intelligence system that keeps everybody abreast of the full surgical throughput of that case. So if you ever wanted to know where it was and what location it currently resides and what's the touch time, or You want to look up the IFUs yourself. If you're in OR waiting on that case to come back, you'll be able to know exactly where that surgical case, where that tray is within the entire throughput cycle and how close it is to you. So if you do not have Sterile by Design, you have any of the other legacy technologies, that's the reason. Most legacy tracking softwares only track what has happened. You don't know where it is now. You don't know where it is on your throughput line. You don't know how close it is to you. Sterile by Design, our operational intelligence software, not only mitigates risk from happening or stops mistakes from happening. You as the OR, you as the surgeon, the scheduler, no matter where you are, everyone can be abreast of what's happening in SPD in the full flow if you have access to it. And that will stop a lot of the he said, she said right there at its track. And then if in this case, if this hospital system actually had Sterile by Design, when that point of use isn't being done on that tray coming back down, we have something where you can alert anonymously, if you like. You can alert what the problem is from that tray coming down to the OR, and our system will let that specific person know and their management that there is an issue there. And so if you wanted to be able to have a system or a technology that can allow for you to hold people accountable, my number one saying is that the only way you can have accountability in your organization is if transparency has a home in a room there. If in your home or in your business, transparency is not allowed to live there, you can never have full accountability. And so what Sterile by Design does, it allows for clean, unfiltered accountability without all the junk that comes with it. And so we're going to definitely transition SGG to your last question. We missed you all last week. So yes, I am going over today. We're getting one more in. Here's a situation, SGG and Derek. You all can share it, and then we'll call it a show today. At hospital-wide meetings, SPD often gets little time to speak. And when they do, their concerns are brushed aside. Staff want to be heard, but don't know how to frame their issues in a way that leadership or other departments will take seriously. What's the best way to present SPD concerns in hospital-wide meetings? What is the best way to present SPD concerns in hospital-wide meetings, especially if they're in a facility or in a space where they feel like any bit of anything kind of gets brushed aside because they are still processed?
Well, I think that I would need a little more information from this person. Hospital-wide meetings are not necessarily, unless they said it was a meeting to bring your concerns for the whole hospital about your department, is not where you take those particular issues. Those issues, I think, are better served when you bring the leadership, the C-suite, to your department, and you discuss whatever it is that you feel needs to be discussed at that point, so that they can take from that what needs to go out to the whole.
Okay, so let me stop here for you, SGG, because I want you. I feel like there are two sides of this coin that you really could teach. I want you to first teach the person who's not a leader. They don't have pull, they don't have influence, they just can't go to a meeting. Tell them what to do in that way. And then on the second arm, you do have a leader, but they're timid in getting, the attention of those that they need attention, maybe because they're scared that it may show that they can't run their department. There's all these things that happen. I want you to talk from two sides, because we do have a side where they don't have power at all. You can't get C-suite down. You have another side that if you ring the alarm loud enough, you could, but fear of being thought of as not qualified enough to run the department is also something that sets in. So can you coach those two people up?
For the technician that feels that there's issues that are not being addressed, there are processes in place that you have to be willing to tackle. For you, the technician, if you feel that something is going wrong, something isn't being done right in the department, the first thing you have to do is be sure that you have used your chain. In hospitals, we have a chain of command. Did you tell first line team leader or supervisor what the problem was? Have you said anything other than to your friend on the other side where y'all gossip? So if you have a problem, gossiping is not the answer. It's going to the leadership and saying, this is what I found is going wrong here. What can we do to fix it? And you notate that. You all know I talk about documentation. I talked to Dr. Jake, team leader, and I told him that we are not drying the scopes like we're supposed to. This is we in general. We're not doing it, and we haven't been doing it. And I did this on the 11th of November. It is now the 11th of December. Dr. Jake has not come back and said anything, and we still aren't doing it. Well, now I need to take it up to the next level and say, this is what I've done. This is what I'm telling you, and we're not doing it. I want you to know that in a hospital system and most systems, there is a compliance code and a compliance number. And when you think things are not going the way you think they should, this is why you don't gossip, then you're able to go to the compliance number anonymously and put in what your concern is so that they can do the investigation. Now, the reason you don't gossip is because when you gossip, everybody knows what you're thinking, what you said, how you said it, and we all know you're the one called the compliance number. But when you follow protocol, and I'm all about protocol, when you follow protocol and you follow the rules, you're able to take the things up the ladder that need to go up the ladder. That's for the basic technician. For you, the leader that is scared or you're too timid, you don't want to tell anybody that you don't have but 2 people working on day shift. And the reason you all can't get the trades done every day is because you only have 2 people and you wanted the 2 people. And they want you to do reports and they want you to be a technician. You have to be willing to, number one, know what your job is, leader. What did my job description say I'm supposed to be doing? Did it say I'm a leader, a manager / technician? Did it say I'm the manager? Well, if I'm the manager, it is my duty to make sure that that department works within the regulations and the standards. And if we're not meeting the standards, before I go call Wavy TV 10 on my side, I need to have followed the chain of command. You have to have put it on notice. You have to have documented your concerns. We don't document our concerns. We just, as Dr. Jake says, you talk out of your mouth to the wrong person. It doesn't get to the right person, and things are never changed. I am a true believer that if you follow the process, you have something to fall back on when it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. When you don't follow the process, you out there in the ocean without a lifeboat. So you have to follow the process. Does it take time? Some things take more time than others, but you have, as a leader, the manager, you have to be willing to state what the problem is to the necessary forces who can help you fix it. And my best friend cannot usually help me fix anything. So it means I have to go a little bit higher up. But you cannot go, Dr. Jake, with thoughts and feelings and assumptions. You have to go with the facts and just the facts. When you go with the facts, they can push back, but the facts push further to getting something alleviated and fixed. Now, that's just my thought for that.
Go ahead, DJ.
No. I was just going to say she's on point. When you think about hospital-wide meetings in these organizations, you're talking about you have the ear of the C-suite or leadership, whether it's the president or whomever you're meeting with. And for so long, we all can agree that SPD is one of the departments that's severely underinvested. I mean, they don't invest a lot of money in it. Whether it's we have limited staffing, space is always chosen last. Our departments are always smaller than most areas. Staffing is not normally we're able to replace FTEs as quickly as we would like. And we have a lot of equipment challenges. Yet most of our equipment is being used daily, hour on hour, whether it's our sterilizers, our washers, or all of the above. So when you think about a hospital-wide meeting, first of all, as a leader or a technician, you got to make sure that you follow the chain of command, because number one, you never want to show up your manager or your direct leader above you. And you want to have a collective thought and approach. You want it to seem not personal, but more so, hey, here are some challenges and concerns with us, my department, SPD, in completing our job. Here are some challenges with staffing. Here's what happens. Here's how we're forced to work additional hours or to stay over when cases run long, right? So you make sure those issues and concerns that you bring forth in those type of meetings are as a collective view from the entire department, and then ensure that it is okay with your direct leader, that it's okay to bring up some of these concerns. Maybe have pre-planned questions, pre-written questions that you can run by your leader, so that it doesn't seem that you're trying to really put anybody on the spot, but really address the concerns that impacts everyone in that department.
You need to make sure that what the meeting is for, because Dr.
Yes,
Jake, all hospital-wide meetings are not necessarily for you to come and do the throwdown meeting. The CEO was getting up there to tell y'all about the Christmas pumpkin pie he was going to give y'all. And you came running in with your concerns, and you threw them out there out of context and out of order. So all the hospital-led meetings I've gone to have never necessarily been about, come tell us what's going on in the SPD. It's a hospital-wide, meaning they're coming, bringing everybody together, and usually it's to give us information. It's not the meeting where they're saying, bring your 20 concerns. You have to know what the meeting is about.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a bring your concerns meeting, then yes, I'm coming with my concerns. But as Derek says, I've made sure the concerns I'm coming with are truly concerns that can be fixed and addressed. Not my thought concern and my assumption concerns, just the facts. Because you will set yourself up, Dr. Jake, at a hospital-led meeting to not have to come to any more hospital-led meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, which could ultimately affect how you're promoted. Usually at this time, we will give our takes, and I just want I'll start because I did want SGG to finish. What everybody ultimately should be looking to create within the space that you dwell, that you operate in. You should be trying to build up your points in the leeway system, LEEWAY, leeway. Just because somebody has position or a title doesn't mean the organization has given them leeway, which means authority, freedom, or flexibility to act, decide, or operate within certain limits. And so before you start asking the organization to change things on your behalf, you need to assess how much leeway you have. And in a lot of cases, a lot of us try to bring change to an organization. We haven't developed any leeway. So how you develop that leeway is simply this. You show up being a leader every single day. So when you operate with the leadership mindset, it involves taking initiative, communicating clearly, and focusing on achieving goals while supporting others. But most importantly, it's how you show up every day that gives you the autonomy to grow or to build your point system in the leeway system. And so what I would tell anybody is your department If it's a mess, nothing's going to change overnight. So the only way you can start to create change, it doesn't matter if you're a manager or a regular techs. 9 times out of 10, your manager doesn't have leeway. 9 times out of 10, even your director doesn't have leeway in an organization. So when you're telling them something and then getting mad at them because nothing has changed, well, the truth is nothing probably hadn't changed because they don't have leeway. So what you want to focus on is first gaining favor in the environment that you're in, which is showing up on time, being extra dependable, which is not skipping steps, overly communicating, navigating your emotions, operating amongst others, building with the team, collaborating. This builds a camaraderie amongst your peers, which will give you leeway to be the voice of what's happening in your department. But if you're the person who's causing the tiff, if you're the person that's in the drama, if you're the person who's always calling off or always barking up, you're not going to have leeway. So you're never going to even be able to be in the rooms to discuss your concerns. And even if you are, they won't take it into consideration because you don't have leeway. So everyone, if you truly, authentically want to create change in your organization, Scripture says, never despise small beginnings. The greatest wave started with one ripple. So you just want to be a ripple and be the leader that continues to expand your reach of authority by building leeway. And when you have enough leeway, enough ripples all at one time, that's what creates the wave of change. But a lot of us are trying to move too fast, trying to get authority too fast. And that movement makes those who actually control the leeway leery of your intentions, and they will never put their organization or even their reputation on the line by backing someone who has limited leeway. And leeway takes time to build. It takes experience of them actually seeing you navigate during tough times. All of these moments actually show them if they can trust your decision making. And a lot of it has to do with how you control your emotions, how you navigate lack of resources, and how often do you spend time actually understanding the context of the environment that you're operating in versus just trying to get them to come to your defense in the position that you currently have. So the very best tip I can give anybody, regardless of your position, is to work on building your leeway, the influence, so that when you speak up, people will listen and put resources behind your words because they can trust that you can do it. And so I just wanted to leave people with that. And at the end of this show, we always give takes, something that you can take with you. The next person I'm going to bring up, Derek Jones Sr., if you can give that person that needs to understand how to communicate, how to move things forward, they want to create change, what would you say to that person to end the show?
So it's simple. You gotta have, you gotta develop a sense of awareness, self-control, and patience in order to display effective communication as a leader. Working in this field is always a heightened situation. There's always a tough moment. Everyone's under extreme pressure to provide and get things done, whether it's trades, whether it's setting up the OR, serving the patient, you name it. We stepped into a profession where you're never going to have a consistent day, and quite often you will be approached, whether it's by a nurse or a doctor or whomever. You may get yelled at. They may curse at you, whatever it is, whenever you're in that moment. But as a leader and as someone who is up and coming and wanting to be a leader in this space, learn how to really listen to what is needed and be solution oriented in that moment so that you can resolve and get things done, and then learn how to dial back and approach that individual, whether it's with the leadership. Sometimes you may feel like you need a support system with you, but really talk about the occurrence and how it affected you so that you can resolve it and you can move forward and have a better, solid working relationship with that individual and continue to build yourself and be able to grow in the industry, because you don't want to lose control and snap out or yell back and have an exchange with someone. At that point, it puts a black eye on you. And also you end up working against the ultimate goal, which is providing successful supplies or instruments for that patient. So learn self-control, learn how to communicate, take 10 breaths or take 1,000 breaths and just relax for a second, count to 10 and learn how to deliver the message you're trying to deliver.
Awesome. Great take. And SGG, if you were to leave our Crusaders with something, what would you leave?
For today, I would leave you all with this, what we've talked about. Communication is the transferring of information, ideas, feelings. It is a clear and consistent information sharing. You have to be willing to give the information. You have to be willing to listen, to hear, not to respond. And for those of us that find there's lots of problems going on, and I keep telling you all about all these problems, nothing's being fixed. Find a problem that can be fixed. I used to tell my people, we know we have problems. Do you have any answers? See, everybody can come up with a problem, but do you have an answer? Because when you can come to me as the leader, the manager, and say, Sharon, I realize that we always leave all of these instruments in the middle of the table, and I think I have a solution that might work. I am more willing to listen, to hear what you have to say, because you're not just coming with another problem on my table. You're coming with a solution. And when you come with a solution, it may or may not work, but at least we can try it. I now begin to gain trust in what you have to say when you're saying there's problems. And with trust that is backed up by the facts that you brought and your ability to do something called follow through to make sure we're going to fix this problem, you're willing to take ownership, you're willing to do the follow through, then I'm willing to listen, to hear what you have to say. And when I listen to hear, I comprehend your communication, which is the transference of information between the transmitter and the receiver. We now have communication. Communicating is hard because we're in a world where we don't like to do it. We don't like to have crucial conversations. We don't like anybody to tell us what we've done wrong, because as Dr. Jake said earlier, everybody feels like they're right. But you have to be willing to listen, to hear, and you have to be willing to listen and hear sometimes criticism. And you have to be able to take the criticism, glean what you can fix from the criticism if it needs to be fixed, and move forward to do better the next time. Communicating is important in your everyday life, not just in SPD, not just with the OR. Communicating is important to live today. You've got to be able to communicate with everybody, the little people, the big people, and the middle people. It is the transference of information. And listen, SPD Nation, we can do this. You have to work at it. I'm out.
And as the golden woman herself said, listen, this is SPD 911. We are glad to come every week live to talk to you about all things within sterile processing within the hospital system. This is Dr. Jake. That's Sharon Greene-Golden. That's Derek Jones Sr. We'll see you next week.
SPD 911 isn't just a show, it's your emergency response team for sterile processing.
Having a diverse organization, people make the mistake in trying to make everyone the same.
SPD 911, we stand
Yeah, you're asking for a pay raise every year.
Heard the stories, seen the tears, raw and real, we face the fight, supporting each other, night and daylight.